I pulled over and just cried because the abuse started here.
It's
Angry.
upsetting. It's upsetting to come back and to just to see the prison still standing.
Don't cry. It's so good to see you.
It was hands down the rape club.
It was a dark graveyard for us.
They tried to break me here. They tried to break us all, and they weren't successful.
We're your mothers, your grandmothers, your daughters, your sisters.
It's choking me up because it should have never happened. None of this should have never happened.
They gave him the name Dirty Dick Smith for a good reason. Is that what I was sentenced to?
They're all together. They're all in it together.
Hi there, I'm Natasha Zouves. Wendy, Panzo and Cassandra Reyes say they survived the prison that was known as the Rape Club.
This is Mark.
And they're not alone.
I'm sorry. It's embarrassing to tell people that what we went through is real.
In an exclusive investigation, formerly incarcerated women are telling their story of surviving a federal prison so notorious for sexual abuse, it was called the Rape Club. The women say they are devastated after recent events. One of the most notorious guards, Darrell Dirty Dick Smith, was the last of 8 officers charged with sex crimes at Federal Correctional Institution Dublin. Dirty Dick Smith was charged in a 15-count indictment, the most counts of any of the officers, but after days of emotional testimony, a federal judge declared a mistrial after jurors were unable to reach a verdict. His new trial now scheduled for September. Smith maintains his innocence. In this conversation, you'll hear more from Wendy Panzo, who says she was abused by Chaplain James Highhouse. The chaplain has not been charged in connection with Panzo. He did plead guilty to 4 counts of sexual abuse and was sentenced to 84 months in prison. You'll also hear from Cassandra Reyes, who says testifying against Smith was empowering. This conversation is candid. It deals with themes of suicidal ideation and sexual assault, as well as violence. These women say it is finally time that the world knows what they have been through and what is happening in too many prisons across the country. This is our conversation. Wendy, why don't we start with you? Because you had described you were at rock bottom, and you turned to the church, you turned to faith. You wanted to connect with God to help you see the light. What does rock bottom look like? What did that look like for you?
My rock bottom was getting a 25-year sentence and trying to kill myself in a cell. That was rock bottom for me. It was not something that, at my age, 25 years was a life sentence. I'm sick, I have lung disease. I would have died in there. That's rock bottom.
Yeah. And what was going through your mind as you were considering dying by suicide?
I didn't want to live the rest of my life in prison. I didn't want to live 25 years behind bars and not to be able to see my grandkids grow up. And I didn't want to be a burden to my family. I didn't want to grow old in prison. I didn't want to just continue to be in that situation. And that was a lot of time. The crime and the time did not fit.
You were in for 25 years on drug charges, is that right?
25 years for a drug and gun nonviolent charge. Yeah.
And so, Wendy, talk to me about turning to the church.
Turning to the church for me was supposed to be uplifting. It was supposed to be a place where I could find strength. It was supposed to be a place where I went to lay my burdens down and to be counseled to go on and to continue my faith journey and that I could do this and, all of the things that you would have expected a pastor to do. And that ain't what happened. I got groomed. I got put in a situation where I would go in, I would lay out my heart, he would rub my leg, and I thought it was kind of odd. And I was like, no, And he played off of the emotional state that I was in. And the pain that I was going through, he turned it around on me, like trying to fit into the groove that was carved out because I was so vulnerable. He was claiming that because he went to war at 33 and he saw Afghanistan or whatever, and then when he came back, he had post-traumatic stress disorder and he was disabled. Because he had post-traumatic stress, they believe that he got a sexual impulse disorder from post-traumatic stress. And
That's what his defense was trying to claim.
That's what his defense was claiming.
Wendy, ultimately, how many times did the chaplain abuse you?
I was sexually assaulted 4 times, but it was over a period of like grooming. And then, he worked his way up to that. And then the second encounter really what happened was I started to get stronger. The farther time it got away from my sentencing, I started to get a little stronger.
You didn't want to go to his office anymore?
No, I didn't even want to go into the church. And he would call me over. He would have these certificates, and they were so corny, where the rubber meets the road, or just a lot of different certificates that were just kind of
just tell me,
crazy.
he would print out these certificates.
He would print out these crazy little certificates. I have them right here. These crazy little certificates, and he'd be like, "You have to come and get this," right? And so,
what does it say?
It says for Federal Correctional Institution Dublin, beyond boundaries. And what he would do was he would get it, and this is his signature on the bottom. He would hand out these certificates to say that we took his classes, but a lot of the times he used these things as a way or a vehicle or things to call us over for, as if it was a legitimate excuse. Like I couldn't get it if I went to the church, or he couldn't send it with somebody in my unit. I would get to the office, he would call me over, and he would call me over during a time where it was in between, like just before count. So you got that area where you're counted over in the area that you're in because you're with a staff. So they say, okay, I got this inmate over here. So they count you in there. So there's nobody there. We all know that in Dublin, they didn't have nobody in the chapel on the weekends because they also had the reentry program and stuff. So if he called you over there and you were in between that time, no reentry people were there, no classes were going on. It's just you and me. And so he would call me over, and then I'd be stuck. And then the threats. Okay, well, here we are. I don't want to be here. Why are you calling me here? And then it's like, well, you like calling home? Of course I like calling my family. That's all I had. Okay, well, we can take that away. You like your good time? You can take that away. They can take anything from you.
He would threaten cutting you off from speaking with your family.
Yeah, to get what he wanted. And he got what he wanted because that's all I had. That's all I had. I didn't have nobody else. That contact was more valuable to me than what he was trying to take. So there was no longer that, oh, here, let me just lay down and spread. And then the second time was the same scenario, and after a while, I just started really trying hard to get out, trying to find any program available, like get me out of here.
Explain this to me. I mean, how powerless are you in this dynamic?
You don't have no choice. Who are you going to tell? You can't go to the people who investigate the officers. You can't go to the PREA officer, the main PREA person, the warden, because he's participating. You couldn't go to kitchen staff because they were participating. Everywhere you looked, there was somebody in power taking your power away. And who are you going to tell? You're locked into a club that you can't get out of. If you want your visits, if you like you having something with your family or your kids or your good time or your video visits or your telephone, you give whatever they say you have to do. Mm-hmm. You don't have a choice.
What did this do to your faith?
What faith now? I think that's the point. What faith? I have faith in God. I do. I have not been in a church. My first time going back to a church was when me and Cassandra and everybody from Dublin, when we spoke at the church out in Oakland. It was my first re-entry into a church ever. And I ain't been back since.
Can you touch your Bible?
Sitting there dusty. Sitting on my counter dusty. I haven't flipped a page.
You mentioned something to me before that really struck me. And really that came out of left field for me. I wasn't expecting it. You mentioned your weight when you entered
I ate myself
FCI
ugly.
Dublin. Yeah, tell me more about that. What do you mean by that?
I used to be only 145 pounds. When I went into prison, and the reason why he came at me the way he did, was because I feel that the way I looked, part of it was because, I didn't look like this. Then you got to remember, it was 10 years ago. And so when I'm looking for a photo that I could show you, that was before when I went in. And then what I did was I ate myself ugly. I went to that chow hall, and I promise you, they used to serve seconds, and they used to, in the mornings, on the weekends, they used to load up, like in the afternoons, whatever we didn't eat for breakfast, they had it all laid out, take as much as you wanted, and I literally gorged every single meal
Why did you do that?
to eat myself ugly, because if I'm ugly and I'm fat, nobody would want me. Maybe I wouldn't have to go through this again. And that didn't happen. It ate myself ugly.
I mean, Wendy, first of all, thank you for sharing that with me. You don't need me to tell you that you are not ugly. You are far from it. You don't need me to tell you that, but it's true. But it's true. Was there any sense of vindication with that 7 years being handed to him? Was that enough? Is that justice?
I don't think it's enough. I don't think it's enough. I had a non-violent crime for drugs, and they sentenced me to 25 years. And while they have power over the top of them in this kind of position and only get 7 years is just ludicrous to me. I don't think that they're getting enough.
I know many of the women that we spoke with talked about unexpected triggers that no matter how much therapy you have, no matter how strong you feel, how healed you feel, it can come out of the blue.
Every day. Every day. It's the smell of a cologne. It's the shaking of the keys. It's the sound of the locks behind you, or the door shutting in certain ways, or the way the windows will shake sometimes. It's having a cop in my window, in my rear view, when I'm driving. It's having a police officer anywhere near me. Anybody of power just freaks me out. And the residuals of not being able to go to church, not being able to partake in something that I once loved. I can't, the screaming or any kind of anything, it really triggers me, and it affects my family, it affects my grandkids, it affects me, it affects how I live life. And so I'm dealing with it the best I can, but it's going to take a long time. I have not even dated, and I've been out a couple years. I haven't had any sex, zero, nothing. I can't even allow somebody to touch me. It makes me sick. I have not had anything. So as far as relationship-wise and stuff, I might be that old lady just not being able to do that. I might be alone for the rest of my life.
Wendy, what was the nickname for FCI Dublin?
That's the rape club.
And why was it called that?
Because that's what it was. No, but it was the code of silence and a blue code. They talk about the blue wall of silence. That's the BOP wall of silence. Everybody was involved and nobody was saying nothing. The inmates couldn't say nothing, and the staff sure wasn't going to say nothing.
Wendy, you've been in several facilities. Is FCI Dublin an anomaly? Is it just a bad apple, or is this happening everywhere?
It's happening everywhere. It's not just FCI Dublin.
Wendy, thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to turn to Cassandra and
Yes.
bring you into the conversation.
Thank you.
Cassandra, I understand that you have been through it, and especially
Yes.
recently, because you decided to come face to face with a man. What is his nickname?
Dirty Dick Smith.
What was it like coming face to face with him after everything you've experienced?
Honestly, it made me feel confident. At first I was really afraid, and working up to the point of having to go testify, I had been so nervous, stressed out, just so anxious. And then finally, when I got to face him in the courtroom, I honestly felt good. I locked eyes with him. I let him know, like, I'm not afraid of you, and I'm here to stand up for myself, and I'm here to hold you accountable. And, I hope that we definitely get justice.
What was your experience like with Dirty Dick Smith?
He would lock your door and then keep you locked in there until count time, and then he would make you flash him in order to let your bunkie back in, or let you out of a room you're not supposed to be in so you can go to your cell, because during count time there's going to be 2 officers. And although he did not typically write people up, that other officer is definitely going to write you up. The thing and the thing there too was, like, with not coming forward and not saying things, is like they would put you in the shoe and put you under investigation. So if you go into the hole or the shoe, you don't have phone calls, you don't have visits, you don't have video visits, you don't have commissary, you don't, like, you're just put under so basically you're punished. They go through all of your personal items, pick what they want you to keep, throw the rest away, and then just put you in there under investigation. I mean, there was girls in there at times for like 4 months at a time.
Yeah.
And they were obviously the victim. But so that's what it started off with him, with the flashing.
That's how
Right.
it started.
Right.
And then how did it escalate?
Him coming in the room. So we have like little windows in our cell doors that you can see through, and my cell was particularly right across from the shower. And then he would come in my room when I'm in my room, like, naked, putting lotion on to get dressed and stuff like that. And he would ask me for oral sex. He would ask me to have regular sex. And I was very hesitant on doing those things. I'd be really scared. And as time went on, I was getting so close to the door, like so close to being released, that I didn't want anything to jeopardize that. I had worked really hard on rebuilding the relationships with my children and my family. And I didn't want to, end up in the hole, for the rest of my remaining time in prison. So,
Did you feel like you could say no?
no, I didn't feel like, I felt like there would be consequences.
What did you feel the consequences would be if you said no?
That he could either retaliate against me, or the prison would retaliate against me, and I would be thrown into the shoe for however long, they decided to have you in there. Like I said, I'd seen people in there for 4 months at a time.
And the shoe is solitary confinement, is that right?
Yeah. You're locked down 24 hours a day.
What is going through your mind? What is the experience like?
I felt disgusting. I felt like I was betraying myself. I felt anxious. I have a lot of sexual abuse in my past, and so it really takes me back to like those experiences, because that has been a pattern throughout my life. I've had some pretty severe traumas happen, and so it's almost like, here we go again.
What does that do to you in that period of time?
Yeah, I was just really trying to stay low and stay under the radar. And, when it happened, it happened. I just kept looking forward to my release date. I'll be out of here soon. I'll be out of here soon. And honestly, I had no intentions on coming forward and speaking about it. It was an embarrassing situation. I got married like 9 months after I got out, to someone that I had been speaking to while incarcerated. And so that's surely not something I wanted to share with them. Like, I just wanted to put it behind me, kind of like I've always done with every other situation of sexual trauma in my past, like just move forward and try not to look back. But it's definitely had effects. All of it has, from my past and this. Definitely, like me and my husband aren't even able to have a sexual relationship.
You said you and your husband are not able to have a sexual relationship.
No, no.
Why is that? Why is that?
I just don't even want to be touched. Like how she was mentioning, like I don't want to be touched. I'm just not ready, and I just keep asking him to be patient with me. That I hope to get there, but I'm just not ready. And I haven't gotten to feeling ready, and I've been out since 21.
Yeah. I want to open it back up to Wendy as well. Cassandra, thank you for that.
Yes, thank you.
It's different on the street when you can get away from your abuser. He's arrested, he's gone, you can get away. It's a one-time thing. You don't know him or you do know him, but you can remove yourself and start your healing process. We didn't have that. We were stuck 24 hours a day, and anybody that felt like that they wanted something from us could just take it, because who was going to say anything? They had that power. There is so much trauma attached to that. People do not understand the level of trauma. It's like, you know, I can't even amount it to anything other than being locked in a box.
Cassandra, what do you want everyone to understand about what this experience was like?
That it's not something that anyone should ever have to go through again, that there needs to be some legislative changes, that you do commit a crime and you do get sentenced to a particular punishment. That is fair. But having to go through all of these kind of things while you're serving that punishment it's inhumane, and it's
Mhm.
not okay. And it needs to stop, and it needs to be addressed. And I just really hope that there's some big changes made with all of us speaking up.
Yeah.
I would like to say on that note, to add to Cassandra's, is that the other thing, the only way, and I strongly believe in this, and I hope that whoever is listening to this or sees this news report that you're doing understands that the only way to stop it is if every single correctional officer or anybody of power over somebody who's vulnerable, whether it's a mental health institution, jails, or prisons, state and federal, the only way to stop it is by full exposure through body cam. And I think
Yeah,
that every prison guard,
yeah,
anybody who's vulnerable,
that's an
anything that
excellent
opens
idea.
somebody needs to have body cams.
Yep.
It needs to be legislation. It needs to be put into effect in a law, and those should not be turned off at any reason, because those cops can turn off and on those things as, oh, look, it was an error. But
Yeah.
the only way to hold anybody accountable is by full exposure, and body cams, I think, will stop this.
Cassandra, what are your hopes for the future? What do you see for yourself?
I just am about to launch my business. I make a recovery and addiction themed brand. This is one of my shirts right here. And so I do it on
What does your shirt
tumblers,
say?
and it says meth ain't cute. And the name of my
It's
brand is
recovery
chasing
clothing, right?
recovery merch. Huh?
That's wonderful.
It's
That's wonderful.
recovery clothing for people in recovery.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's awesome.
So, yeah,
That's
thank you.
great. Cassandra, thank you. Wendy, what are
Yes.
you hoping for yourself? What do you hope the future holds?
Well, I'm currently just trying to get well. I'm doing counseling. I'm doing everything that I need to do. I volunteer at the food bank. I'm volunteering with a motorcycle club called Children Guardians of the Children, to help children that are being abused, and to go to court with them and be a part of their life and their support system. And I'm still trying to advocate for legislation to get body cameras for this situation. I think body cams are the only solution to the problem. And if they don't implement something like that, then they're just giving away money, really, because you're going to keep having people that are going to get sexually assaulted. And when they come forward, you can't act surprised. You can't act surprised, because it's just something that has been going on and on and on. And finally, we're being heard. Because, really before, people didn't hold any value in an inmate. They don't hold value in inmates. Oh, they did a crime. It don't matter. They're probably lying. And that's basically what they said through his trial is like, don't believe them. They're inmates. Don't
Yeah.
believe them. They were in prison.
Wendy and Cassandra, I am so grateful that both of you are telling your stories now, and
Thank you.
you really honor me by being this candid. I really appreciate it, and I'm wishing both of you all the best going forward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
for
much
talking.
for inviting us.